Hi, and welcome to Modern Conception, a new era of fertility decoded. I am Brittney Sobel, founder of It Is Sloane.
And I'm Amanda Zurawski, co-founder of It Is Sloane. And today we are joined by the incredible Jenna Wolfe.
Ladies! Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hi, thank you
Thanks
for
for being
joining.
here.
Of course. I'm excited.
So
We're excited.
Yeah, so excited. We are both big Today Show fans,
Mhm.
and we were when you were on air.
Nice.
So
Good time to be.
yeah,
Just a little. That's my 2 cents. It was a good time to be while I was on air. You
It
know,
was-
So feel free to be a fan
We
whenever I'm
agree.
on. Thank you.
Yeah, we both spent our mornings getting ready for school watching the Today Show. And it's funny because we grew up very differently in different parts of the country. But that sort of, we had that connection
To
there.
bond, yeah.
Yeah. So we're both big fans of yours and
Thank you.
really happy to have you here.
It's like a rite of passage. I did the same thing. I grew up with the Today Show on, and
Oh,
Mhm.
did you?
kids- yeah.
So that must have been wild to
It
join.
was. We grew up watching NBC Nightly News every night.
Oh, wow.
And Tom Brokaw, it was always Tom Brokaw. And then I got the office next to Tom Brokaw's. And I was like, I'm sorry, it says that Tom Brokaw's in this office. They're like, he is. I'm like, it's so funny because I used to grow up watching a guy named Tom Brokaw. They're like, no, same Tom Brokaw.
Oh
I was
my
like,
gosh.
get out of here. They're like, you actually work here. You need to stop with that. I'm like, oh.
Fangirling,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I would be the same way. I get
Totally.
it.
Totally.
funny.
Jenna, we're going to introduce you. So Jenna Wolfe is an energizing journalist, author, and fitness dynamo who redefines empowerment. With warmth, wit, and authenticity, Jenna often shares intimate moments from her personal experiences, from growing up in the Caribbean to raising her 2 daughters, Harper and Quinn. Love their names, by the way.
Thank you.
Mhm.
To coming out on national television, and most recently to having conquered adversity after a double mastectomy. Whether addressing an audience of women, school kids, or corporate sales teams, Jenna has spent the last few years sharing practical and actionable strategies for crushing goals, cultivating resilience, and igniting success. Jenna was the first ever lifestyle and fitness correspondent on NBC News Today. By the way, I had no idea that you were the first ever. We'll
Me
talk about that
neither.
in
Not until you guys just told me. That girl sounds amazing that you're describing.
As well as the host of Weekend Today. She's the author of Thinner in 30, a 30-day diet and fitness book where she blends athletic wisdom, laugh out loud humor, and easy to follow advice. From 2017 to 2022, she was the host of First Things First, a daily sports talk show on Fox Sports. Prior to joining NBC News in 2007, Jenna spent 12 years as a sportscaster. She is a certified personal trainer, health and wellness expert, and motivational speaker.
How about that, you guys?
Basically a boss.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I love that. Could you just tell my kids? Because for my kids, what they tell me is that I'm either cringe or sus. And I'm like, is that great, you guys? Is that awesome? They're like, no, Ma, that's not so awesome.
I'm just trying to learn some of these words now that the kids are using. Have
Mhm.
you heard 6-7?
No.
Okay, or maybe I'm getting the digits wrong, but it's 2.
There's a good chance even if you got them right, I wouldn't
Yeah, I
understand
have
it. So
no
feel
idea.
free to get
I
'em
have
wrong.
no idea what this means, and I've heard it being used in all sorts of contexts.
Is
like,
it a
Oh,
negative?
we've got to
But
ask.
I don't
It's
think
impossible
so.
to tell.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Never tell.
I don't know. I guess it has to do with the tone and would you deliver it. Like, but I've heard like 6-7, man, or like, yeah, that's 6-7. And I'm like, I don't
I
get
feel
any
like
of-
I did hear about this because the Today Show does a thing where they like help elders
Interpret.
like us understand modern language. And I feel like they did one on this.
on the
Clearly, it
digits.
did not stick. I did not retain whatever it
So-
means.
I did a story on the Today Show one time where they sent me to a class for, you had to, I think it was like 80 and above, learning Facebook. And
Oh
so
my
all these people were in a room and they were set up with an iPad in front of them who had never even like handled an iPad, such technology. It was hysterical watching these guys like learn this, but it's no different than me now trying to learn what my kids, so it all comes full circle. So
Yeah.
I'm now the laughing stock of my family, the way, you know, we used to have fun watching our parents trying to learn
I'm
things.
Yeah.
with you. I don't know TikTok. I don't know anything.
Same.
I don't-
Fortunately, I'm still the cool aunt among my nieces and nephews.
Stay that way.
I'm working my hardest to.
Stay that way.
I'm
Don't ever
trying.
change.
I'm trying.
All right, Jenna. So for listeners who might not know you, can you give us a little bit of background. You're here, we're talking about family building.
Yep.
So about your family building journey, how you shared that. I remember you sharing that on television. Walk us through that.
Well, it's not the way I thought I was going to end up sharing my life story, which is on national television. But there was, I would say, a pressing need to explain why I was suddenly, 3 or 4 months pregnant, I think at the time. And as far as, the Today Show audience was concerned, wasn't married. I never really talked about my personal life, but I was dating Stephanie Gosk, who's a fellow correspondent at the NBC Nightly News and at the Today Show, and she was based in London. We were dating. She ended up moving to the United States, and so we decided if you're going to take the Band-Aid off, rip it off, and let's just expose whatever's underneath it, which is like, in our mind, was like big and was beautiful and it was who we were. And then let's figure out what comes of that, because to like sneak it out in little drips, it just wasn't who we were. We were both journalists. So we coordinated with People Magazine and with the Today Show, and sat down on the couch one morning, and it was just, well, here it is. I'm 3 or 4 months pregnant, and my partner is Stephanie Gosk, who everybody knows, and that was it, and we were just sort of, I think in the back of my mind, I was like, what's to follow? Are we waiting for like this wave of vitriol that's going to come at us? But we were pleasantly surprised at how that was received. It was not bad at all. It was a lot of support. And I think we were so wrapped up in it that we didn't give any thought to, now what? Well, how are we going to do this? And then obviously, before this, when we even decided to get pregnant, it was, when we first went to talk to the doctor, there was a list of like 500 things that we had to do in order for 2 women to bring a baby into the world. Because if you're not in that world, why would you know that?
Right.
Unless you're having fertility issues, unless you're, in a same-sex marriage, if you need help, if you don't need help having and conceiving, you don't know that much about that whole part of it. And the way it was explained to us is, if you can there are a million things you have to do. And if you can just think about it as just, what's the next thing? And what's the next thing? And don't let yourself get all wrapped up and all stressed and spike your cortisol levels of, I have to do so much, and what if it doesn't happen? And what if it doesn't work? So we really, what's the next thing, to our way through the whole process. And that's how we had a donor, and we used IUI, and we had 2 kids. So I ended up birthing both kids. And the Today Show was wonderful, and we Skyped at the time. We didn't Zoom from the hospital, and it was good. Now we had a series of, we had our ups and downs, and it was not always easy. But that's how Harper and Quinn came into the world, with 2 moms who were on TV. So it was a little bit different, and the way it was announced was a little bit different. Wouldn't change a thing, but that's how it all went down.
So what year was this? This Harper?
2013, Harper was born.
Okay.
And then 2015, 18 months later, Quinn was born. I think I was pregnant for about 5 straight years, because as soon as we had Harper, I think I was just done breastfeeding, and we were like, let's have these guys close together. We had children later in life. Stephanie and I both decided we wanted to see the career thing through as far as we could, do all the things afforded to us as 2 reporters who were athletic and fearless and, young at heart and had tons of energy.
Still do, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. And then when the doctor was like, okay, your body is telling you that now's the time.
And how old were you?
I was 39 turning 40 when I had Harper, and 41, 42-ish when I had Quinn.
So you had never previously frozen your eggs.
Nope.
So you just go to your doctor and you're like, I'm thinking of having kids one day.
Yep.
And your doctor says, you got to start now because you're
The
39.
doctor said, okay, so you need to see a reproductive specialist. I mean, it was, when I tell you, it was, well, what's the next thing? So there were so many things we had to do. But it was, gosh, it was so long ago, I'm trying to remember. It was a lot of, I didn't even know how to figure out when you're ovulating.
Right.
I didn't know anything. It was similar to, fast forward, 13 years, I just tested positive for, I was a BRCA1 carrier, and I was like, well, what is that? I'm like, well, how could I be a woman living today and really not know what that is?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we do a disservice by not explaining to girls as they're maturing and young women as they're heading into adulthood what all of this is. But the doctor said, this is what you need to do. We have to figure out when you're ovulating. And then, basically, for all intents and purposes, here's a catalog. You need to figure out who you want the donor to be. We wanted it to be an anonymous donor. So you basically thumb through a catalog of what you're looking for. And for us, it was just health criterion, which is they're healthy, their family's healthy. Nothing else mattered to us, just, those things. And then you sort of narrow it down. And I mean, I don't either. There's like a purchasing, option, and then you have to store it and you hold it and you wait for the right time. And then again, we used IUI, which layman terms is just turkey basting it in.
Yep. And it worked. It worked on the first.
It worked on the third time for me with Harper. Neither of us wanted to. We didn't really understand what IVF was all about, but we knew that. I mean, this is how basic it was. We knew that it involved a lot of injections and it could change your body and it kind of messed with your hormones a little bit. I mean, that's how simplistically it was explained to us.
Yeah.
So if it was possible to avoid that at all costs, we would. So we decided we would try a couple times, and I would try since I was based in New York and Stephanie was traveling a lot.
Oh, right. That's the other thing.
And that's the other thing, And it took us a little while. So like, month 1, we try it, and then we went skiing, and and I think month 2 we tried it, and then we went away on vacation, went water skiing, and I fell a bunch of times. Month 3, like the third time, I ran in a Spartan race, and then the doctor was like, "Why don't we do this? Why don't you try and then not do those crazy things, and let's see if you get pregnant?" And I did that plus a little acupuncture. I got pregnant, and it was I loved being pregnant. I don't know how many women feel that way, but I absolutely loved it. I loved that for 9 months, it was just me and my kid. It was just me and her, and you and me, kid. That's it for 9 months. And then she's in the world, and then everybody else gets to be with her. But she was just like,
That's such a beautiful way to look at it. I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. When I tell her now, she really does not appreciate it at all.
She will one day.
Zero
She will, yeah.
appreciation
She
for
will.
both kids. So that's where it was. So we didn't have too many pitfalls and too many setbacks, at least with the pregnancy aspect of it. The delivery was a little tricky with both kids, but for the pregnancy, I got pregnant on the third try with the first kid. Then Stephanie tried, and she wasn't getting pregnant. And they had we talked about IVF, and we both discussed it. And she was still traveling a ton, so I was like, let me try. She said, "Why don't you try?" So then I had Quinn, and that was on the fourth try. The second time around.
Okay.
Same thing.
So I think you alluded to this a little bit in how you sort of navigated some of those decisions. But I want to ask you a little more directly, maybe selfishly, because I have friends who are a same-sex marriage, and they are trying to figure out right now, like, okay, whose eggs will we use? Who's going to carry? And it's bringing up a lot for them. So I'm curious how you made those decisions with Steph, and then maybe any advice that you would have for somebody who's navigating that right now.
So let me just start by saying the decisions that we made were our decisions. This is in no way, shape, or form advice I'm giving anyone. Everyone needs to do things when they want to do it on their own timeline and the way they want to do it. I think it's a very sensitive topic. And I know that because we also, we're seeking out advice as well on what to do with all of this. For us, we wanted minimal drugs in getting pregnant. We wanted ease through the pregnancy. And at the time, I was hosting the Weekend Today show. So I was always going to be in New York on the weekends, and Stephanie traveled all over the place. So check one for me going first. And then we decided that's how I would have Harper. For Quinn, Stephanie was going to have Quinn, and then she wasn't getting pregnant right away. And like I said, she was going to have to use some drugs. But the way we approached it is no matter what, we're the parents. No matter what. So if it was a heterosexual relationship and I needed help for whatever to get pregnant, it was still going to be, and I had 2 kids, he was still going to be the parent. And that's the way it was. Even if it had nothing, we used a different donor rather than him, he was the parent no matter what. And we looked at it the exact same way. The kids are no more mine than they are hers. They're no more hers than they are mine. And it has to be that way. And you go into it that way, which is why we wanted an anonymous donor. It's not like the father is, we don't call it the father. He was the donor and we are the parents. And I think if there is a healthy approach to having children that way, where you are two parents who are bringing these two lovely children into the world, or a lovely child into the world, then it alleviates some of the, well, I will have it. Well, it's my kid and you're carrying it. Well, then you hear all these stories. Well, we used her brother's eggs, so it would be part. It gets complicated. Again, everyone is entitled to whatever path they choose. But at the end of the day, it's a parent who loves a child. And if everyone can keep that in mind and take some of the feelings out and think about it through the child's eyes, like our kids only know they have two parents. Yeah. And they know that I delivered the kids, but they are, in their eyes, Steph and I are equal parents.
Yeah, right.
That's just the way it is. That's all they know. They don't know any different. In their mind, like some people have two moms, some people have two dads, and some people have a mom and a dad. And that's how they were born into this world. And they don't know that before them, there really weren't that many open same-sex parents in school, and now there's so many of them. So we try to keep it as normal, which I don't love that word, but as mainstream and typical as possible.
And by the way, it's pretty easy to do as a mom raising a child in New York City. Sloane, my daughter Sloane, was born via gestational carrier, and I was always so concerned about how I was going to explain to her how she was brought into this world. And I have all the books I bought, and it's like I told her, and she had a question about it, and she asked if she came out of mommy's vagina, and I said no. Actually, this lovely woman, Kristen, helped because I couldn't carry a child, and I explained why some women can't, some women can. She was like, okay. And she goes around telling people that she was born via surrogate in Massachusetts, and it's like, okay, on to the next thing. It's not a big deal.
You're her Bible, you're her guidepost, you're her moral compass, you're her explainer of things. And that's what you told her. That's the way it is. It's no different than you saying this curtain behind you is blue and this is a cup. That's the way it is. That's the way it happened. She doesn't say, well, why is it blue? Nor does she say, well, why can't I? It's if you are the one that is carving the path for your child as they come through life, that's what they're going to believe. And that's what, if you approach it as, so it was a little difficult. Then all of a sudden they have a little bit of hesitation towards their birth story. But if you bring to the table this confidence and this, assuring them that was made with like love and, like confidence, and you were brought into the world this way, it's no different than saying you came from the left or you came from the right, or you were in a room that had like white curtains or blue curtains. It's just, that's the way it is, and they believe it, and then you don't have to say it again. That is their story, and that's how we approached it with the girls.
I love that. So you use the same donor for both girls.
Use the same donor for both girls, and that was important to us to have the same donor. But, it gets tricky. You have to make sure you have enough samples. You have to make sure that, everything has to sort of line up, that you try a certain number of times, and then there are a certain number of samples left, and everyone has to be on the same page. And again, looking back at it in my rearview mirror and then looking ahead at it before I started the process, it was a monumental pain in the ass. I was like, I don't like when I have a million things to do. I'm like, sometimes I get overwhelmed. If I got overwhelmed by that process, I never would have done it. Right. So a lot of people are like, well, when's the right time? Or, my partner and I are thinking about, and the right time is whenever you want to do it. There's no light bulb that's going to flash on. No one's going to tap you on the shoulder and say it's today. Like, if you want to do it and you have a lot of love and you want to bring a child into the world, like, that's your time to do it. In hindsight, I can't believe I went through all this stuff. There was a lot of driving all over the place, and one thing was downtown, and if you're ovulating, you have to call the doctor, and you have to go in, and you have to get blood work done, and I was working at the Today Show at the time, and I was always traveling, and I don't know how I did it all. I just don't. But when you're in it, you have to focus on what's the next thing. Just tell me what the next thing is. I tell the kids that when they have so much, what's the next thing you have to do? Yeah, but I have to, okay, but put the buts aside for 1 second. Just give me the next thing. Let me hold the buts for you. I'll hold them for you because I can kind of get heavy. Don't worry about it, kids. Just tell me what the next thing is. You focus on that, and then slowly I'll give you a second and a third, and you break it down a little bit. And again, we did IUI. It is a far more difficult process, I'm acknowledging, when you're doing IVF and when there are more steps and when there's a lot more to it and when it's a more painful process, which I fully understand. Mine was a tough process, and mine was just turkey basting. So I have a lot of, sympathy sometimes for people that, that they go through a lot and they put their bodies through a lot to bring a child into the world.
But give yourself some credit, because I've done IUI and IVF, and they're both really hard. And navigating everything about it is so complicated.
Navigating it is complicated.
Yeah, and so that's something that we're working to fix. I've done a number of rounds of IVF, unfortunately, and haven't been successful yet. Still hopeful, and I'm about to start another cycle this week. Yeah. And I started doing some injections to get ready for the injections for IVF. And I was saying to my husband, I was like, man, this is not just like riding a horse. Like, I forgot how hard this is because it's been 2 years since I've done my last cycle. I'm like, I've done this, and still I have to figure all of this out again. I have to navigate the landscape, which has changed in the last 2 years. And, to your point, it's just one step at a time. And I remember when I was a kid and I was facing, a project that was really overwhelming, my mom would say, Amanda, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I apply that to IVF because it's like, okay, just one step at a time, one day at a time, because it is, to your point, so complicated and so hard to navigate, which is something that we're trying to make more accessible for folks.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah. All right. So I know you're very into fitness,
yes,
wellness.
Yes.
My mom had your book, by the way.
Oh, I love your mom. I don't know if I told you this, but I love her mom. Okay, now I said it. Hi,
Mom. So how did you approach fitness and wellness during your pregnancies? Did you continue to work out the same? Did you modify your diet, your workout regimen? Like, what did that look like?
You went water skiing.
I went water skiing. I went snow
skiing.
Skydiving,
That was before the pregnancy.
Yeah. The same way. So my approach to fitness and I'll just call it fitness for right now, was equally, it's physical and mental. It's 50-50 for me. Some people just look at fitness as physical, but for me, it kept me sane. And I know some people, crazy people say that. I'm that crazy person. No, I am a trainer, but I worked with someone during my pregnancy to make sure that my heart rate stayed at a certain level, to make sure I was doing all the things I was supposed to do. And it felt really good. And it was important to me that I maintained muscle mass throughout my pregnancy. I was 40 years old. I knew I was getting a little bit older, and I wanted to make sure, I thought that I was in the best shape of my life when I went to deliver this child. And what I have come to know, both delivering 2 babies and then going through a hysterectomy and a double mastectomy, is there really is no correlation between what shape you're in, for the most part, and how a procedure is going to go. Your body's going to react the way it wants to react. It just is. I had like a little issue with Harper. I had a little issue with Quinn. And then I had some complications with the other 2 big surgeries I had recently. But it was important to me to both enjoy the pregnancy, so give in to some of the things that I've always craved that I didn't let myself eat before because I was so strict on the diet. So if I wanted mozzarella sticks, I had mozzarella sticks. You find that you want certain things, like those combos, the little cheese and the crackers.
Yeah. Delicious.
That is all I wanted. And all of my jackets, like throughout pregnancy, were stuffed with these like empty wrappers of like combo wrappers. And Quinn always says, my little one comes out, she loves combos. And I think it's because that's what I fed her for most of the pregnancy. But I definitely did work out. I worked out the morning that I gave birth. I mean, I walked on the treadmill and lifted some weights. And I enjoyed it. I felt good about myself. I wasn't doing it. There was no, I wasn't doing it for vanity. I didn't look any better. But I felt really, really good. Like, I needed those endorphins to get me through the pregnancy. And I try to tell some people that you don't need to look in a mirror. You can just feel, like, you'll know. If I wake you up, did you work out yesterday? You should be able to know whether you did or not. You should be able to have that feeling. So when you get to the point where you miss a couple days, you feel like you're missing something. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to miss anything throughout my pregnancy. So I was careful, but I definitely did work out.
Yeah.
So then you end up having a double mastectomy.
Right.
What year was that? I'm so sorry.
That was
by the way.
2 years ago. So everything was great. Kids are great. Everything was wonderful. And then my mom during COVID found out she had triple negative stage 3 breast and lymph node cancer. It was really
gosh.
bad. And
sorry.
nobody could be with her. Thank you. She's
sorry.
okay right now, which is a miracle. Somehow made it through, and at the very end they tested her for the BRCA gene and she tested positive. So I am a firm believer in why wait for anything.
Yeah.
Why wait? The wait and see, I don't get it. So I went and got tested. I tested positive for the BRCA gene. So I went and sat down with the breast surgeon and the hysterectomy surgeon, and it turned out that they run the numbers, like a 46 or 47% chance of getting breast cancer.
Oh, God.
So I was walking around with like a 1 in 2 chance of getting breast cancer, and they were actually at my age, because I was probably 49 when I found out, or 50. They were like surprised that I hadn't even gotten it yet, which was a miracle. And they were like, okay, so here are your options. We can test every 6 months, or you can go in for a double mast. I was like, they didn't even finish the word mastectomy.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sign me up. I don't need to be walking around with that. And then same thing with ovarian cancer. I said, there's no really signs that you have it. There's no pain symptoms. Ovarian cancer is hard to test for. So I said, let's do the hysterectomy as well. And they
At the same time?
I wanted to do it at the same time, but they said, thank gosh, they said this, that it would not, that you have to, it's tricky, and your body may not heal from it. And thank goodness that I didn't, because my body had a hard time healing from both of them.
Oh, wow.
And they we'd like you to sit down with like a breast psychologist and the hysterectomy therapist and talk through your options. I was like, for me, and again, I will say the same thing I did with getting pregnant. This is how I approached it. I will never put this on anyone else. People come to me all the time like, what are your thoughts on if you're BRCA positive? Should you get that? For me, this was the closest thing that I think we have, once you have kids already, to having a crystal ball that says you're going to get cancer.
Mm-hmm.
This is the closest thing. They're literally like, you have this % chance, for the most part, everything's a guesstimate, of having breast cancer. What are you waiting for? So my breasts are going to be like a little bit different than they were before, but guess what? I'm not going to have breast cancer.
Right.
So I said, sure. So I went in for I took the next availability he had in the OR for the hysterectomy before I did research. And some people could research themselves to death.
Absolutely.
And I have friends like this where they just read and read and read and read. And you'll always find one thing that says, this is the worst decision you'll ever make in your entire life. That's not what I was going to do. I'm a television person. I'm a personal trainer. Like, I'm a motivational speaker. So if it has to do with those 3 things and a parent, come talk to me. If it has to do with whether or not let me talk to the doctor. This is what you studied. This is what you went through. Trust.
Right.
And I had the best care team. And I went right in for the hysterectomy, and we took everything out, which I'm so blessed that we did. So it alleviates, uterine cancer and ovarian cancer. That's not going to happen. And then the schedule was for 9 days after that, I was going to go in for my double mastectomy.
Oh, wow. It's a quick turnaround.
Gosh.
It was too quick, as it turned out. But that was my doing. They said you should wait a little longer. I was like, no, let's just do it. Look how strong I am. Look at my muscles. I've got such big muscles. I can do anything. No correlation. I had like a little stitch that had frayed or something happened. I can't remember what it was. I was hemorrhaging. I was in the hospital. I went back and forth. But we went in as planned, and then I had the double mastectomy. Again, did not ask a million questions. And when I came out of that surgery, I thought, I don't know, I didn't understand that they put like expanders in. I didn't understand the whole process, and I probably should have understood it a little bit more. But the team was wonderful, and it took me, again, my body had a real hard time healing. So I was down for the count for a while, which for someone who needs the endorphins and who needs to exercise, it is 5 weeks before I can even really move, before you can even wrap your head around exercising.
You must have been going crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I didn't do much. So what I did was I kept training people. So I trained on Zoom, and being in that and writing workouts for people, for me, was the closest thing I was going to get to feeding that high.
And you mentioned the 50-50 physical mental. That's at least keeping your mental physical activity.
That's exactly what it was. So it was training other people until I was able to. And then some people are like, okay, it'll be 5 weeks. And then that turns into 6 or 7. And then they want to ease into it. And then they're like, maybe this is not the most important thing. And then like, let me take a year off. And then all of a sudden it's been a year or 2 and you haven't been exercising.
Yeah.
The day of 5 weeks, I got my green light. I did something. And just something, and it was ceremonial. It was something to let me know I was back in, not something to lose weight or get stronger, whatever it was. I mean, it was a while before I could put on a sports bra. It was even longer, but I could spandex. Remember, they went in this way, they went in that way. Everything was, I won't get into details, but it was messy. But, there were my 2 kids who were young, who have been through a lot and learned a lot. They learned what having 2 moms is. They learned what, Steph and I are separated, and we told them what that was all about. We didn't hide it. We didn't hide it when my mom had cancer and got really sick and lost her hair and lost her fingernails. And we weren't going to hide it when, my brother, who's a doctor, happened to come over and visit one night, and I started, hemorrhaging, and they had to rush me to the hospital. We're like, this is life. And we learn life at all ages. You're learning a lot of life at a young age. And maybe there'll be a stretch where you don't learn as much. But you learn something every day. And if you have questions, ask. And we're happy to explain it. People parent in all different ways. Some parents want to shield their kids from things as long as possible. And again, I'm not knocking anybody's way of parenting. We want to expose the kids so that it's never jarring when it hits them, because life is going to hit you at all different times in all different ways. We didn't want them to be made fun of for having 2 moms, or, well, how could you not have a dad? Well, I don't understand. Why don't you have a dad? And sidebar, and I know I've talked for like 27 hours, but we were at a party one time, and Harper went into the kitchen. She was like 5 to get a juice box, and there was someone in there. There was like a grandfather of one of the kids, and I let her go in by herself. And when I walked in, I overheard him saying, well, where's your dad? Is he outside? And I was like, did I prepare her for this? Like, does she know? Like, what is she going to say? And she said, I don't have a dad. And he said, oh, I'm really sorry. And she said, no, I don't have any dad. I have 2 moms. And obviously he didn't understand, and he was like totally confused. And I think he thought she didn't understand the question. She wasn't even fazed. Yeah. And she got her juice box and walked out. And I was like, yes. Like, right? Because if we were in a different time and I never explained it, and she might have thought that she was void of something that was important. So those are the reasons why we feel like we want to explain things to these kids. And they've been through a lot, 2 moms, the BRCA, the separation, like they've been through a lot.
I didn't even realize that you were separated, Jenna.
Yeah. They're going to be tough. I'm sure they already are tough kiddos.
We call them city kids. Like you fall down. I'm like, get up. You're a city kid.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, you're a city kid. Now, everyone, you could be a suburb kid. You're a suburb kid. Get up. But that's what we call them. And there's a lot of it is about exposure and exposing them. And,
I love that.
I
love that perspective. So I want to go back to this is me just not knowing much about this, so forgive my ignorance. Please. If you have a double mastectomy or hysterectomy, what does that reduce your chances of getting cancer to?
Okay, so we're in the cone here. I'll explain it for people that don't, because I didn't know anything about it either. What the breast surgeon will do, they'll go in and scoop out all your breast tissue where you can hold, cancerous cells. You have the option to keep your nipples or not keep. If you do keep your own nipples, there is a 3% chance you can get breast cancer again, but it can be checked. Otherwise, the number goes down to like 1.5%.
Okay.
So I do have mine. I'm young enough and I wanted to maintain that. Some people don't. It's fine. So I went from like a 46% chance down to like a 3% chance.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm checked all the time. I go in for an MRI every like 5 years or something, and we are monitored. But that high number, and I'm no longer in that danger zone, obviously, at all. It is not something I worry about. And then for ovarian cancer, it also, obviously, I don't have ovaries anymore, or, uterus or fallopian tubes. So I'm basically at nothing of getting that. Thank
amazing.
You.
So sorry. We just have so many questions. So we're obviously big proponents of young women wanting to proactively freeze their eggs for any eventuality in the future, should they choose to build a family. Similarly, is that something that you can do from a young age? Can you screen for cancer at any age? I know with mastectomies, with mammograms, they tell you to wait until you're 40. Can young women be screening for this earlier? And
You won't always. You can. I think it's now whatever it is, like 40 or something. But because I was BRCA positive, now my girls have any. It's not just girls. So if you're BRCA positive, your children, girl or boy, male or whatever, has a 50-50 chance of testing positive for the BRCA gene. So my brother tested also, and he was negative. So my girls now will have a 50-50 chance of being BRCA positive, but they will not test them until they're 25.
Okay.
So my hope is that by 25, and if they do, then their eggs will have to be frozen, and then they will wait, and they can have the surgery, they can have a hysterectomy, they can have a double mastectomy if they want, alleviate any form of cancer from 25 on, and then their eggs will be frozen for when they're ready. Or they'll test negative, and then they will decide later on how they want to proceed. So I'm hoping that by 25, we are medically advanced enough that they don't have to go through what I went through. Right? Oh, you might have breast cancer. Let's just chop off your boobs. Like, it's so archaic and it's so barbaric. It feels like to me, like, oh, you might have ovarian cancer. We're going to go in and just suck out those organs. Like, the concept of it, if you explained it to a kid, is insanity.
Yeah.
Oh, you might have something? We'll just take that body part right out for you. So, gosh, wouldn't it be great? And I've spoken to doctors, and some are of the belief that maybe by 25 we'll be able to just surgically inject or remove the BRCA1 cancer, the defective genes. But I don't know whether we are or not. My girls are 12 and 10. So you're talking like 10, 15 years from now, whether we'll be able to do that. But either way, whether you can or can't, at 25, they'll be tested for the BRCA gene. Yeah. They won't start testing them for breast cancer till much later.
Yeah. So my question sort of ties in. When you found out that you were BRCA positive, was there any thought that went through your mind of, I should have done IVF because I could have done genetic testing to see if my embryos were BRCA positive?
So,
or if you were, by the way.
So this is all pretty, I don't want to say new, but like insurance is finally now covering some of this BRCA testing. Mm-hmm. But even 5-10 years ago, it wasn't. It was a little more like the DNA and the 32andMe or whatever it is,
right.
Where it was, people weren't really doing this and they weren't testing. So the answer is no, because I don't know if that was an option. I did all the genetic testing. Never once was it even an option to do. I don't know if you can test BRCA1 testing to see if they. I don't know if you can in the embryo. Can you?
You can if you have.
If you know you have it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it wasn't. We didn't know about it or have it, or no one in my family had breast cancer.
Right. There was no reason.
There was no reason for us to test. My grandmother didn't have it. My mom was already, in her 60s and never had breast cancer. So I think that we just didn't assume it was anything to test for.
Right.
So I don't know. If I did know, then yes, that would have been a conversation.
Right.
That definitely
and then you
would have
probably
been a
think
conversation.
about if you did IVF, maybe it would have accelerated the growth of the BRCA gene, right?
Exactly.
So,
it's so hard to know. You have to make decisions very quickly sometimes when you're, having a baby. So we had Harper, and the same week that Harper was on the where she was born, on the floor where I think it was like a 1 week where it was a nurse rotation for 1 week. So it was similar, like NICU nurses for 1 week.
Oh, okay.
There was a baby there was a nurse that came down with TB. So when Harper was 6 weeks old, the hospital called us and said, listen, we need to tell you that a nurse just tested positive for tuberculosis.
Oh, that's terrifying.
The same week that your baby was born. So we're calling all parents who delivered that week. I was like, well, what does that mean? Well, you're going to want to contact the local, your pediatrician and the local chapter of the CDC, and you're going to want to find out. And so what was recommended to us was you want to start them on a course of this medication, these antibiotics. I'm like, she's 6 weeks old. We should let you know, if she gets, the way it was explained to us is if she does get TB, she could lose her life.
And we're probably not responsible.
And if you start her on this medication, she could get kidney disease. Oh. I'm like, well, what are options? So we called in, we went up the food chain. We called in as many people as we can. We spoke to every doctor, and they're like, we wouldn't do it if it was our kid. But we had to make a decision quickly.
Right.
Well, what do we do? So we had to monitor. Yeah. And it is gut-wrenching to monitor to see what happened. And thankfully, she came out of it. And once she was in the clear, she was in the clear. But it made me think about that, which I haven't thought about in years. You have to sometimes sometimes make these really quick decisions, and you're responsible for this like other human being that's incapable of making any decisions for themselves. So it was so stressful, the whole thing. There was so much stress around it.
It's like, never mind, you have to worry about keeping this thing alive.
Right. They send you home with no manual.
None.
Wait till you see. They're like, okay, go. We're like, go. We just had the baby 2 days ago. Where are we going? They're like, home. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. We're going to stay here longer. They're like, no, you're not.
Guys, when Sloane was born, I had never held a baby standing up. Okay? Never held a baby standing up. She was born in Massachusetts in a very rural area, and there was basically no one at the hospital. It was a midwife-run hospital, and she was born in the middle of the night, and they're like, here you go. Okay, good night. And she's crying the whole entire night, and I'm like, hi, can someone help? And they're like, no, unless you want to put her like for the night, we can take her into, the room where we have watching the preemies. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. But can you just come in and see if there's something wrong? And they're like, no, like this is your special time together. And I'm like, but I don't know if she's okay.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
And they were like, good luck. You could leave. You could leave tomorrow, and good luck. Congratulations.
So I will tell you this, your approach to that, which was, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to take it the next step at a time. If it smells like I should change a diaper, I'm going to change a diaper. If it feels like they're hungry, I'm going to feed them, is the best approach, is the same approach I would give someone who right now is facing fertility options, right? Which is, don't overthink it. Don't figure out all the things you don't know. Yep. Don't come up with all the things that could possibly go wrong. And don't be weighed down by the heavy, like just the weight of all the stuff you have to do. Just take it the way you took it with Sloane, which is, okay, let me just get through the night. Yeah. Once I get through the night, I'll figure out morning later. But like what's right in front of me is right in front of me. And that's what I tell people right now when it comes to fertility, which is, well, what's the next thing you have to do? Yeah, but what's the next thing you have to do? Put all your effort in just the next thing. And that's how you stay present for each step of the way. And that's how you are not overwhelmed. And that's how any sustainable change in life, any sustainable life decision is made. What's the next thing? Yep. Let me make that decision while I'm fully present and it's in front of me, and not while I have 30 things in front of me and I'm on my phone and I'm trying to figure like the 14 steps ahead of me. Just do the next thing that's in front of you. And I promise you, breaking it down that way is the only way to really commit to it, be present for it, and give your whole self to it.
Yeah. Like my mom says, eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
One bite at a time.
As long as you're making progress.
Also, season
for sure.
Yeah. Just because
it's going to be tough.
It's tough and it's bland.
Chew really well.
Yep. A lot of chews.
Well, this has been I just realized we never did our starter question, what we always do at the top of podcast.
Yeah.
We just dove right in.
Did I do it early?
Let's do it at the end, because I'm just curious. So we ask everybody, clearly we're big coffee drinkers. What's your coffee order? What's your go-to?
So this is a complicated question. So if you want to clip this,
we
whatever,
want the complicated.
Yeah, we want it.
Every morning, I do 2 cups of coffee a day. I do 1 cup of coffee at 450. In that cup is a scoop of collagen, a scoop of creatine, sometimes MCT oil powder if I'm feeling dangerous, and a scoop of fiber.
What collagen are you using?
I'm using Bubs.
Okay.
Mix it all up with a little bit of almond milk.
And just regular coffee?
Regular coffee.
Okay.
And it doesn't taste weird with all that stuff?
It takes a little bit, but I need to get all of that in, and that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, I'm drinking 37 cups of water. So in every first cup at 450, my alarm goes off at 450. I get up, I do a series of stretches, I drink 20 sips of water, and then I go make my coffee. And that goes in it. I drink the whole thing. Now I know I had my collagen. I know I have my creatine. I know I have my fiber, and I'm done. So finished. And then my second cup of coffee is just 3/4 of coffee and a little bit of almond milk at the top, and that's it. And I'm good to go. Or sometimes I'll do a little half and half, again, if I'm feeling crazy. But it's plain coffee, nothing that takes me more than 8 seconds to order. That's it.
No sweetener.
No sweetener.
Okay.
It took me a long time to get off sweetener, but I finally
know, I'm
did it.
trying. I'm now on stevia.
Okay, so you're
I
doing
feel like it's one step in the right direction.
It's one step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not off. Some people are like, oh, you eventually have black coffee. I don't want black coffee.
Yeah.
I'm happy with this. But I did get off the sweetener, which I'm very happy about. I got off the sweetener one time when Joy Bauer, who I worked with at the Today Show, said to me, Jenna, you should, I was like, how many packs of the little packs of stuff should you have a day? And she was like, no more than like 2. I was like, 2 times 10? She's like, no, just 2. I was like, 2 packets? That's it for the whole day? She's like, about that. And that stuck with me. So I eventually tried to see if I can do that, and I did.
Well, congratulations on that.
Well, please, of all the things thank you for that. They were most proud of the sugar situation. Of all the things I've accomplished that I've done in my life and that I've survived. You're awesome for the sugar thing.
That tells you how addictive sugar is.
It is super
very disciplined.
That would say when I go off sugar, sometimes I'll take a month and just go off strict just to see.
Like no sugar, no fruit, nothing.
Yeah, it's hard. That's the hardest thing I do.
That would be really hard.
Not surviving these surgeries, not dealing with the setbacks, not birthing 2 children where epidural ran out on one of them. None of that.
Oh my goodness, and we didn't even get into that. We have to have you on another time.
No problem. Anytime you want. I've got stories for days. Wait till you hear how I kicked sugar.
Well, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for coming.
Jenna.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Listen, a lot of people are going through this.
Yeah.
And if there's even the smallest thing that you could pluck from my story to help someone else's, let that help. And then they will take something from their story and pass it along. And it's a community. Yep. And everyone has at least one thing to share that we've done maybe a little different that could help you or could help you or could help someone. Because people went through it. And that little thing, like for me, it was, well, what are you going to call if you have, what's your kid going to call if you have 2 moms? Like, what do they call? Well, how do you... You know what I'm saying? Like there's a million things you don't think about. So let it happen. And if there's something that I have managed to pass along to someone else, I am grateful for having been able to do that.
I think
you definitely have.
A lot of things. Thank you.